Hey guys, it's Mia here. Welcome back. Today I am joined by a personal friend and author J.A. Martin. Hi, J.A. Martin.
Hi, Mia.
So, today I brought you here to talk about a few of your different books. We have one up on the screen now. And I wanted to know what made you get started at writing.
Um, Back when I was a sixth grader, I discovered I had a talent for writing. Um, at first, I only really wrote short stories, but when I was in middle school, my mom suggested that I try to write something a bit longer. So I took it up as a challenge and was like, I'm gonna write a book.
So, what was your first book actually published?
Winter, the one on the cover. The first book written, first book published, and let's just say it's not very nostalgic for me.
Now, as someone who's read all of the series, including one that's not out yet, Autumn, I can say that it's definitely obvious how much improved your writing gets over the course of those books.
Well, like everything, practice makes perfect, and you eventually kind of learn what sounds good and what doesn't. And I've also learned how to better work the formatting, so there aren't as many mistakes. And also, the characters kind of grew up with me, so I am the age of the characters in each book I published. Well, when I wrote them, at least.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about the premise of Winter.
Winter and the Other Seasons books are about four kids, Eric, Jenny, Mark, and Ava, who embody the four seasons. Eric is on the cover of Winter. He embodies winter, so he has ice and snow powers. Jenny, on the spring cover, embodies spring, so she has powers over plants, and she can talk to animals. So, Mark, on the cover of Summer, he has powers over fire and light, because he embodies summer. And then Ava, on the cover of Autumn, she embodies autumn and has power over wind.
So, so they work together to save the world, pretty much.
Kind of, yes. Not always in such an extreme case. They kind of help keep the magic world and the human world balanced. In doing so, they find the four magic items known as the seasonal items, which combine into an extra powerful item called the Journal of Balance. I know that's a minor spoiler. I won't go into details about what it is, but it's very important. And then also, the four of them in the first book, they adopt a little sister named Cassie, who is one of the main characters of a special fifth book I'm writing.
So this book strays from the others, and that is Cassie, Older, and Marcel.
Marcel is the guardian of the seasons. He kind of guides them on their magical journeys. He cares for them and he kind of adopts them as his kids, even though they have their own parents. They all look up to him and look to him to advice, even though he's a total grump. The fifth book, Others, the cover of which you can see right now, diverts from the usual story format due to being two separate novellas contained in one book. Marcel's story, titled Marcel, goes about how Marcel traveled around the U.S. to find the four seasons and bring them together, while as the second novella, Future, details Cassie's journey as she has to save her siblings from a mysterious threat.
So you'd say that that Cassie is actually like a technical younger sister of all the seasons, whereas all of the seasons think of themselves as brother and sister as well.
The seasons are brothers and sisters. they don't have biological parents because they were born from the magic that they control, but they are blood siblings. Cassie, however, was adopted into the family.
So, out of all of the books, what character do you think you relate to most, and what book do you like the most?
Um, Autumn is definitely my favorite book. No, because it is the pinnacle of the season series, and I guess I relate most to Ava because she is intelligent. She can be snarky, but she's not mean, and she's very, very nervous and unsure of herself. And it's a journey of her gaining her self confidence in order to save her whole family and pretty much the whole world. Also, she's super pretty and I love her.
The design of it is very amazing. I mean, all the designs of the covers, excuse me, are very amazing, and I do love this style that you picked for the covers, and the cover artist is very talented.
The cover artist has also done a few other drawings for me, none of which I'm going to be presenting right now, but they are very nice and they are very supportive of the season series, and I'm glad to have them as a friend.
It's always good to like the people you work for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now I think we're going to talk about a little bit of your lesser known series. So let me pull up the cover. So actually, before I go into this one fully, what was your inspiration for the Winter series?
Actually, I had a lot of inspiration. Um, Ironically, it came out as around the same time as Frozen, which is completely coincidental.
And taking over the whole world.
Yeah, yeah. But the whole story has always been centered around Eric. That's why the first book is focused on Eric. The original version of Eric's story was that it was a modern, gender bent version of Snow White, which is where I got the name Eric Snow. And then it changed to his mother gave birth to him after swallowing a magical snowflake, which gave him special ice powers.
Which kind of is like Tangled in a way, how she drank the magic flower.
Yep, and it was also kind of like The Odd Life of Timothy Green, which also came out around the time I was thinking about this.
I am unfamiliar with that.
That's the one where the parents, they put what they would want in a kid into a box and they bury it in the garden, and then all of a sudden the kid sprouts up.
Oh.
But then I came to a conclusion of, there are so many characters with ice powers and they're so lonely. What if he had friends? And so I created the other seasons. And even though Eric is the first character made for the seasons, the first character I actually designed was Ava. She wasn't really a character in my head at the time, but a lot of times I'd love to imagine just this red-headed girl with glasses and a black sweater and khakis reading a book under an autumn tree. And then that vision kind of turned into Ava.
I mean, as reading the whole series, as I already have, even though Autumn isn't out yet, it just wouldn't make sense without him having the other three to back him. And they've worked so well together as a team.
And they're very balanced.
Yes.
Their personalities balance each other out, and their powers work together. You would expect that Mark and Eric's powers would cancel each other out if they both use them, but instead they kind of empower each other because Eric draws in the cold, which makes it warmer for Mark, and Mark draws in the heat, which makes it colder for Eric.
So, was that a challenge for you to make them balanced without starting to make them seem like the same character?
No, because I knew I gave them each distinct character traits, and no matter what happened, those character traits would stay with them, even though they would kind of develop into very similar characters with very, very similar ideals. They're still distinct character. Like even if their names were all the same, you could probably tell which one is saying which thing.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Though they all come from the same power source, so they are four parts of the same person.
Mm-hmm. That's why together their items
Yes,
are the strongest.
Yes, and that they are literally a force of balance. They are not order and they are not chaos. They are a mixture in between.
I like that concept. So, do you have any final words to say on this series before we move on to your next one?
It is the start of a continued extended universe of which I'm going to get more into the lore of the magic powers that be. The seasons are unique, yes, but there are other magical powers that can be very similar to theirs and even equate theirs. And I'm very excited to dive into it.
Dive deeper into the lore?
Yes.
Alright, so...
And also, I do want to introduce the seasons as mentors for future generations of magical beings.
Like teachers?
Yeah. Like, for the upcoming holiday series, Ava is actually the teacher of the 5 holidays.
That is a very clever idea. So now we're going to talk about your next series, the Star series.
This one is all focused around a boy named Lance, who discovers he has special cosmic powers after his house gets hit by a shooting star. He discovers that he is a magical being called a star, and his species comes from another dimension called Astronema. And his series is about him discovering his place in the stars and figuring out all his powers. This one isn't as developed as the seasons yet, but it's definitely going to be a lot longer because I am planning at least 12 books.
How would you keep that continuing, the momentum of it?
It follows the same kind of pattern as Star Wars. One continuous storyline, but in sets of trilogies. I haven't finished publishing the first trilogy, but it's written. I've already started on the second trilogy. And each trilogy will add new concepts, new characters, new threats. Though they're all interconnected, and many things appear in one book that are expounded later.
So there's actually a second cover, and you said to me before that 2 different cover artists made the 2 different series covers.
Yes, I wanted my cover art to be consistent between among the series, but I didn't want the same cover artist for all the different series because that would just be confusing. Because you can see how similar Lance looks to Eric. Which is actually kind of funny because for an anthology of Star stories I made, I have a crossover between Stars and the seasons where we find out that Lance and Eric are adopted cousins. And they hate each other.
Oh, yay. What is it about cousins being enemies? So what per se was your inspiration for this series?
I've always loved Stars, and I've wanted to make a story embodying my love of stars. And I also love fairies, and stars are kind of fairy-like. Compared to humans, they're very powerful and mysterious. They live an exceptionally long amount of time, about 100,000 years for every 1 year of a human. Or no, the other way around. Like, 1
year of human life could be like 10,000 years for one of the stars.
More like the other way around. They age 1 year for every 100,000 years for humans.
Understood. So, whereas your season series took place on Earth and you actually tied their story and made yourself a character in the story at the end, which I thought was really clever. This book takes place in the stars.
It kind of flits between Earth and the star dimension Astronema. And in the star dimension, it's very similar to Earth, but it's unlike anywhere you've ever been. Whereas on Earth, they don't go to any real concrete places. I wanted theirs to be more mysterious and ambiguous. I wanted to focus more on the characters than the places.
Yeah, because you want to give these characters more embodiment and make them seem more real than just one-dimensional. Too many authors nowadays are making one-dimensional heroes, but you actually find a clever way to tie it back in and make them more dimensional.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, would you want to show the other cover?
The Crashing Stars cover?
Yes.
I can't exactly go into what the difference between plot. The first plot of Shooting Stars is focused on Lance's journey to the dimension of Astronema and an attempt to discover who he is as a star. The parent character on the cover of Crashing Stars, Clarissa, is his friend who helps him. But I can't get into the plot of Crashing Stars without major spoilers for Shooting Stars.
Well, I think that's all the books that we have.
Oh, there's Once Upon a Never.
We have one more book to talk about, and this one I'm currently reading at the moment. And I love the cover art for this. And was this another different person from the Winter series?
Yes. His style is more cartoonish, whereas the Seasons is more portraity.
More crisp.
Yeah.
Because you can see the difference with the detail and the style.
But they all look good.
Yes, they all look good.
Once Upon a Never After is a story where our fairy tales are their history, and like their ancient history. So the people live in a world where they learn the lessons from these stories, and they know that they're real. And the characters, Horace and Jason, they come from a kingdom where magic has been outlawed, so they escape in order to practice their magical powers safely.
So, what is the penalty for both of them using their powers and getting caught?
The best case scenario is that they would receive a life in a magic-proof prison. And the worst case scenario is death.
So, like I asked you in the season series, what character do you relate to the most?
In Once Upon a Ever After, I feel I relate most to Horace because he's just real kind of person. In the story, though, he had to care for his mother since he was 8 years old, up to the time where he was 15. So 7 years. He had to grow up real fast in order to be able to take care of her. So he's a bit more mature than I am, even though I'm 19 now and he's only 15.
Yeah.
Whereas Jason, he is the prince of the kingdom. While he had to hide his magical powers from his father, who made all the anti-magic laws, he still lived in a life of luxury. So he still acts kind of like a kid. He acts more his age, whereas Horace acts older than his age.
Yeah, and that's definitely shown in their relationship through the book. I was even thinking that myself and even told you that he acts older and he acts younger. But I myself, too, so far, I relate with you with Horace, because I'm the same way. Like, if I get, backed against a corner, I myself get snarky and sarcastic. And
for what she's referencing in the chapter of Horace's trial, he starts getting so snarky and sarcastic that the judge threatens to throw him in contempt. In which he responds, to hold him in contempt, to which he responds, "I thought you already did." Which, I gotta say, is one of my favorite lines I've written for him.
I was just worried for him because he was just making it worse for himself. But, So far, I will say that I really enjoy this series, and I hope that there will be more to it.
It's going to be one main trilogy with a few spin-offs, and a lot of the story is focused on their individual powers. Horus has the power of night, and then Jason has the power of day, as kind of demonstrated with their magic.
So, what are these on their shoulders?
Those are their familiars. Um, for Horus, since he has the power of night and his powers are kind of dark, he has a shadow as his familiar. A shadow named Drake who can take any form he wants. Whereas Jason, since he has powers over the day, he has a pixie. As you can see, I kind of took my own vision of pixies. They have more of an insectoid appearance, and each one has 4 arms.
I like that it's a butterfly.
His name is Monarch.
Yeah, that's fitting. So I've asked you about what's your favorite series and character and book in each individual series. So, what would you say now, overall, is your favorite book that you've written so far?
I'd have to say Once Upon an Ever After because I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy that how much I've grown as a writer, that it's much longer than my other books, but it doesn't feel rushed, doesn't feel like I've compressed anything.
And it doesn't feel too drawn out, even though it is longer.
It is longer, but it's like there are a few unessential details. And also, I figured out how to write about 2 awkward teenage boys pining for each other without realizing that the other one likes him too.
So it's like in a Miraculous Ladybug, how either none of you can tell they both like each other, but
They can't
they
tell.
can't tell.
Yes, it's very obvious. Jason does figure out his feelings, but Horus is one of the most emotionally clueless people I have ever written. Not saying he's a bad guy.
He's just shy and reserved.
And he just can't interpret his own emotions because he's so focused on helping other people.
So would you say that's both a strength and a weakness for him?
Yes, because due to his lack of emotional understanding, it's going to create a conflict between him and Jason between the second book. Nothing serious, but nothing that could be easily passed over.
So, with what you've done so far and the ideas that you have right now that you're working on, what would you do when... Are you afraid you're ever going to run out of any ideas?
No.
No?
No, I'm not afraid. Nope. Because I can pull ideas straight out of my head without any problems. And a lot of the ideas, like Once Upon an Ever After and Shooting Stars, are recycled stories. There's ideas that I never got a handle for at first, and then when I finally found the handle, I was able to go off with it.
Yeah, that's always good. But like I always tell you, I don't see how you can work on so many stories at once and keep them all straight. Is that an issue for you at all? Or have you ever gotten characters or anything mixed up?
Nope. The worst that's ever happened is that I've taken characters from one story and actually placed them in another story, but that was all intentional.
So it wasn't accidental?
Nope.
So you didn't actually get them mixed up?
Nope. I just kind of... Sometimes I liked the character, but I didn't like the story that they were in. So I took the character concept and moved them into another story.
So that is all the stories that you've
Published
so far. So we don't
plus
have
one that I haven't.
Oh yeah, but we included that one because it was part of the...
It's coming out soon.
So as a closing, I would like to ask, what do you like the most about being a writer?
I like that people can relate to my stories because I used to get told all the time, write for your readers. And it's the hardest thing to do because you can't read people when you're writing something.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I wrote a story that I knew I would like. And other people liked it too.
The best advice for someone like this would be write what you love, write what you enjoy to write.
Yes.
And if that comes through the writing, then other people.
The worst advice ever is write what people want to read. That's the worst advice I've ever heard anyone give a writer. Now, there is a point in time where you do have to consider your readers' feelings
Mm-hmm.
because, you don't want to do something and make it boring or hard to understand.
Or anticlimactic.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you don't love what you're writing, then it's pointless.
It falls flat.
Yes. Not saying that writing is pointless and that you shouldn't give it your all, but you shouldn't force yourself to write something you don't want to.
You shouldn't do it just to please people.
Yes, because it's the hardest thing to do. Trust me.
Because you're never going to please everyone.
Never going to please everyone. And when I try to write something I don't enjoy that someone else says they will, they often don't enjoy it either.
Mm-hmm. Plus, not to mention, it doesn't come out right because you don't enjoy doing it.
Yes. And don't let people tell you how to write your stories.
It's your story. It should be your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Sorry, that was bugging me. Anyway.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today, and I would like to thank you again for joining us here on
Thank
the
you
channel.
for having me.
You're welcome anytime. And I think that's all for today, guys. I hope to see you next time. Bye,
See ya.
guys.